Hey, welcome back to Sunny Morning, here with Silvia Reza, and wow, what a topic you've got this morning. I mean, we're going to get away from politics for a while, okay? Don't want to get too bogged down in all of that, but something really nice, something a bit on the lighter side, and talking about youth development, Silvia. What have you got for us today?
And humanitarian, be on the other side.
Yeah.
Well, it's about YCI. This is called their initials for Youth Career Initiative. And but before we got into the topic, Elliot, I would like to ask you, I would like to ask the audience, have you ever heard or have you ever seen someone, or did it happen to any of you? Did it happen to you? Did it happen to me? About like if you were in risk maybe, or you saw someone, a kid like between 18 to 20 years old, and they were on risk, and not only that, but they just had a few opportunities in life. Let's think about it for a moment. Imagine that a person of that age, 18 till 20, which it's a vulnerable age to begin with.
Oh gosh.
And if they're in risk, and if they don't have the right parenting guidance, right? So they could actually, which are their chances for their lives?
It's a really important step in life, isn't it? You know, where do they go for? I mean, they have so much weight on their shoulders, expectation, but no. I mean, there's where there's inequality, where there's lack of opportunity, and we know, kids can end up on the wrong side of the tracks, and if they fall into the wrong side of the tracks,
Exactly.
how do we pick them up?
Exactly the answer. And if that happens, Elliot, what would represent for the community in the future?
It's so important, isn't it? The community involvement here.
Let's think of that. Let's think like, imagine that a person that were on risk, didn't have the opportunities, couldn't find a way up, couldn't find a way at all. And then, of course, they take the wrong path, and those people will become a risk for the community as well, for society.
As we well know.
It's like goes back and forth.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's very important that we realize and we thank all the duties and all these associations are doing on behalf of this kind of people which need help. In this case, YCI started its life in Bangkok as a youth career development program, a community initiative from Pan Pacific Hotels that this group established to give something back. And that's what we're talking about, like let's give them something back, let's help somebody.
Yeah.
Lyndon DeMarco, Corporate Director of Education with Pan Pacific, and Dr. Klitia Pormsatra, Child Protection Officer for UNICEF, Thailand were the pioneers behind the program model, which saw 8 girls and 1 boy from welfare schools in northern Thailand. And that they transformed their lives as a result of this program. It was so successful for both the students and the hotel that it was expanded to allow more young people and hotel companies to participate in Bangkok. So YCI, the program launched in the rest of the world very soon.
Yeah,
after that.
It triggered, didn't it? I was reading how Asia and like the Philippines came next, and so it was like really, that initiative really triggered global consciousness, didn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's something great, and they came also to Mexico, and they started in Puerto Vallarta, they started in Mexico City, Guadalajara, and here in Cancun, and Riviera Maya, of course. And so far now we have around 840 people which are already evolving their lives, they're already living in the other side of the story. But I would like to say something. Let me ask you a question. Imagine like these kind of people that are not in race, they don't have an opportunity. Let me ask you another question. When somebody actually knows what to do, they lift up themselves, they help themselves, and you and me and many people of the audience, for sure they are saying, well, like they gotta think of what to do in life. And it's true, but we have a lot of capability, like resilience abilities.
Yeah.
And so we know what to do. Maybe we're very lucky. Maybe we had like parents that knew how to guide us. I'm sure they weren't perfect, but they set that right seed on us, and that's why we actually went into the right direction.
Well, it's important, like you say, there's a difference between emerging countries And there's a big difference between developed countries and developing countries when it comes to youth programs. And so for some people that live in developed countries say, well, I kind of take this for granted, you know, isn't there a university, isn't there a structure, you know, most people fall straight into that dynamic. But for countries like, let's say, yes, the Philippines, or even in Mexico, where poverty is not a choice. People thought they don't want to be poor, but there's just, you know, 60 million people, half of the population, live on that borderline. There's not always opportunity, and finding the right path, like you say, is not always as straightforward as you might think.
Exactly, and because of the lack of education that lives on these countries, then of course the mentality of poor people or people who live in poverty, they don't really understand what to do or which are the possibilities in front of them for them to actually move on and move up.
Yeah, where do they reach out to? Because, you know, I mean, okay, we live in an information age, but we're talking about people who probably may not have access to that information. They don't have a computer. They don't know, they don't have an employment office or where they can go to find about industry. So you're saying like this initiative, Youth Career Industry Initiative, has come from industry, from industry and education.
Exactly. What they do is the program includes, first of all, they search for the people who are in risk between that age.
Yeah.
And they search also, they target the young kids for if they didn't finish their university or high school yet, or they are not working, or they are, you know, looking for a job, or they don't know what to do.
Well, we have a big situation in Mexico. Sorry to interrupt, but we have the ninis, right? N-I-N-I, ninis. I mean, maybe this is a Spanish acronym, which means what? Educados, what is it? Is ninis? It means they're not working and they're not in education, basically, between 18 and 20.
Exactly.
It's a big, big problem. There's a huge gap. And I know we have it in the UK as well. There's a major, major gap. They increased the school leaving age. Now you can't leave school at 16 because the 16 to 20-year-old gap, there's millions of kids out of work, not with anything to do, but like you say, with no recourse. So,
exactly.
You know, the ninis is a situation here too, also in Mexico. It's not just here. So Mexico is now part of the program, the Youth Career Initiative.
What is a part of the program?
Yeah, with Mexico, right?
Okay, yes. What they do is they number one, they target these kind of persons that they need help.
Okay.
And number two, they offer them to come for a 6-month program into one of these hotels. So they pay them for everything, transportation, uniforms to be in the hotel, and they give them also some seminars. They go into food and beverage. They give them training in different areas in the hotel, administration, in the administration, in the operational sector as well. And also, then after that, of course, they need to go to a psychological process as well. So
sometimes, they need therapy because of the social issues that they're facing.
Exactly.
Maybe they're coming from a broken home, or there may be some domestic abuse going on. You know, they need help.
And it's a whole twist around in their lives. Because then after that, they give them a certificate so they can actually work, whether in a hotel, in that hotel if they have some positions available, or into some other hotels. So then, and because they switch mentality, then into a mentality where they can actually allow themselves or help themselves, motivate yourselves to move on and to understand that they're not victims and they just had some situations in their lives, but then they are actually able and they could and they can move ahead.
Well, let's pause it there for a second, because I think that's amazing. You know, if you're at that age, you're young, you're starting out in life, you haven't had really any proper work experience, and now you could go and work for a recognized brand name hotel, and being somebody and being able to work in industry, now you feel useful instead of feeling redundant, and having that boost to your self-esteem, having that experience, that opportunity, and being on a par with other people within that work environment who you can gain experience and knowledge, and hopefully not just the diploma or the certificate, but then a long-term position to continue working. And that's happened a lot around the hotels that I know that you and I have worked in. We've seen young people who have not finished school leaving, and then they've ended up finishing their studies at the hotel and continuing to work for that operation.
Exactly. Yes, and well, right now there is numerous than other people that are actually been doing that.
Okay.
And not only that, the same way we can actually affect somebody, and they can affect some people, some other people around themselves.
Yeah.
The same way, if we impact in one of them, like this other, right? Then, of course, they will impact the people surrounding themselves and the society. I mean, instead of having the possibility of going into the wrong path, it's going to happen along the road all the way around. He's going to create a huge impact for society in the future. So we have a lot more for you about YCI Youth Career Initiative in one moment. Stay with us.